couple of weeks ago, there was a quiz night. My friends and I had booked a table and I'd been really looking forward to going. Guess what? I didn't go. They had another work emergency and it wasn't optional. It never is. When a problem lands on my desk, it's mine until it's fixed. That's kind of the deal I've signed up for. So my friends did the quiz and I did the emergency. 20 years into this career and 10 months away from exit, with the maths completely done, the number hit, but my job can still reach out on a random weekday and take away my evening from me. Look, it's no big deal. Nobody was hurt. My friends still had a great time without me. But the bit that actually bothers me is that I've been saying some version of sorry, work for about 20 years now. And recently I started to ask what all of those sorries add up to. That's this episode. Actually, that's this whole month. It's now August, which on this show is Relationships Month. 5 Sundays, 5 episodes, and each one goes a step closer to home. Today is the big claim, the one the rest of the month stands on. It's a claim about what 20 years of doing the right thing costs you, and who you'll be standing next to when you finally arrive. You've built the career, you're building the portfolio, you're close to freedom, so what now? Welcome to Life After Enough, money, meaning, and the life you design when work becomes optional. I'm Nick, I'm racing towards early retirement and figuring out who I become when the job no longer dictates what I do with my time. Let's get into it. So it's Sunday morning in Singapore. I've just got back from my 8K run, feeling pretty proud about that. Yesterday was a really cool day. I ran my first workshop, Retired Find Your Freedom Date. We had about 7 people in the room, decent coffee, and even better snacks. Most people realized that their freedom date is much closer than they had guessed when they came into the room. I had an absolute blast. It was the first proper taste of what my life after enough could actually look like. And I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who turned up. For Singapore listeners, if you are keen to join in, the next one's taking place on October the 3rd. And you can sign up via the link in the description. So here's my thought process for this episode and for this claim. I'll say it first and then we can kind of go into the details and I'll back it up. I think money and friendships are built in a very similar way, and it's slowly out of the time you put in over years. Both of them punish a late start. The money half, you already know, is the first thing anyone in this world learns. Start at 25 and the returns do most of the work for you. Start at 45 and you're carrying a lot more yourself. Fine, okay, that's settled. But what I didn't realize until recently is that the friendship half has numbers too. Jeffrey Hall, who's a professor at the University of Kansas, he published a study in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships. What he did was track people in new cities and new schools and measured how many hours it took for a relationship to change category. The outcome was that roughly 50 hours together turns an acquaintance into a casual friend. It takes about 90 hours together to make an actual friend, and then more than 200 before you'd call someone a close friend. There's a detail in that study built specifically to ruin lawyers' evenings. Hours spent at work together actually count less. He says it almost in passing, but time at work just doesn't do the same job. You can sit next to someone through 2,000 billable hours and barely move at all. So the conclusion from that is that you can't shortcut this. You can't decide at 45 that you'd like 3 close friends by Christmas. The hours have to be real. They have to be outside of work and they have to accumulate over a long period of time, which is exactly what we all say about money. Now, does any of it matter? Maybe friendship is a nice to have and money is the real asset. That's certainly how I behaved for 20 years. But the best data we have says I had it backwards. The Harvard study of adult development, which was started in 1938, sets this out for us. This was a study of 724 men, 268 Harvard students, and 456 boys from the poorest neighborhoods in Boston in the USA. It followed them from teen years all the way to the end of their lives, and it's still running today. It now includes their spouses and more than 1,300 of their children, and I think it's the longest study of adult life anyone has ever actually done. So looking at this over an 80-year period, the finding is actually boringly consistent. The quality of your relationships predicts how healthy and also how happy you will be in later life far better than your social class does, better than your IQ does, and better than your genes. There's one comparison in there that was practically written for this audience. How satisfied people were with their relationships at 50 predicted their physical health in old age better than their cholesterol levels did. That's crazy. Sit with that. I know my cholesterol level. I'm actively working to get it down. I track the trend and I get my bloods done regularly. I could tell you what my net worth is to a rounding error on any given Tuesday, but nobody I know measures the other thing, and that thing on the evidence matters much more. Quick one before we continue. I send a weekly email every Monday morning that goes deeper than the podcast. It's not a recap, it's a separate idea, usually something more personal, plus a question to sit with for the week. It's free, it's one email, and you can sign up at lifeafterenough.com. Link is in the show notes. Okay, back to it. Now, the part that's a little hard to say out loud because it kind of makes the whole fire project thing sound like a mistake, but it's that there's a cost, and nobody in this space says it plainly, so I'm going to give it my best shot. I think the people who reach financial independence are almost by definition the ones who can defer. Say no to now, have more later. That's the entire skill we're taught, especially at the start of the FIRE journey. And for the best part of a decade now, I've been very good at it. Stay late at work, take the call, be the one who fixes things, get the promotion, increase your earnings. No, sorry, work. And while I was doing the diligent thing, I'd watch other people just living and having fun. You know the exact moment I mean. Half nine at night, still at the desk, phone in hand, and your Insta feed is full of people who are out there somewhere being light about everything, enjoying what they're doing. That eats me. And present tense, it still eats me. This year, when the number's been hit and I'm only staying to achieve my optimal exit. And yes, I know the feed is a highlight reel and you shouldn't take it at face value, but it still kind of stings. For a while, I told myself the envy was about travel, but that's absolute nonsense. I travel a lot and I travel well, but that's not what I'm envying. What I've realized I'm envying is the lightness. My days are full of obligation, hard thinking, high stakes, being the person everyone brings their legal mess to, and being glad to be trusted with it, and flattened by it both at the same time. I built this life deliberately, so it's a prison of my own making, and I'll serve out the sentence I gave myself because finishing properly matters to me. But carrying all of that changes what's left over for other people. I think it leaves less of me at the end of an obligated day, and that's just going to be a fact. So then, naturally, there's a trade-off. The person who never deferred anything, who said yes to everything, who has the thinner savings and the fuller weekends, may have spent 20 years accumulating exactly the thing the research says predicts a good life later. And the person who did everything right by any spreadsheet may arrive at the finish line with a strong balance sheet and a weaker answer to the question, who do you call on a bad day? Doing it right, quote unquote, can leave you poorer where it counts most. And I'm not going to tidy that up for you. There's no reframe coming where it all works out. I think that's just a real cost. It's unfair, and the discipline the entire FIRE movement is built on, therefore has a real price. But then there's an additional cost that nobody sees. Saying no to events and trips and experiences in pursuit of FIRE is only half of it. The other half I've only recently begun to see, and I suspect it's the more expensive half. There's a cost that gets paid even when I do show up. When work is bad, I cancel. That's the quiz night. But when work is normal and just having a normal day and I actually make it to the dinner, one of two things tends to happen. Either work comes up and I fall into a familiar loop. How much I hate it, how much I'm done, how I'm counting down to my exit. It's a one note and it's deadening, and I can hear myself doing it in real time, but I can't always stop. Meanwhile, my friends talk about their jobs the way you talk about something you chose. They like their work. Some of them love their work, which is wonderful, but also slightly alien to me. And it means the conversation about work is a conversation I lose every time. Either I'm the bitter one or I'm quiet. So more and more, I do tend to choose being quiet. Then the second thing happens. I deliberately don't bring my work up at all. I dread the question, how's work going, as it usually triggers the start of my hate cycle. Partly because, and I'll allow myself exactly one sentence on this, a large slice of the corporate world runs on theatre, and explaining that to people whose working lives don't is a losing game. You sound bitter or you sound superior, and I'd rather just sound like neither. So I say nothing. But think about what that then means. The thing I spend 60 hours a week on is something my closest friends never really get to see. They can't ask about it because I've trained them not to. I won't offer it. So the biggest single room of my life stays shut at every single dinner party I attend. And then there's what the day leaves behind. My work colleagues and clients get the best version of me. Sharp, present, all over the detail, the one who can fix it. That version gets used up during business hours. Whatever walks through the door at 8 p.m. in the evening is what's left. It's not the version my friends deserve, and it's certainly not the version that builds anything. So the diary can say I showed up. Paul's study would count the hours. What no diary records is who turned up. So where does all of that leave me? Honestly, not where this episode might suggest. My circle has narrowed a lot over the past 20 years. Some of that was geography. I left the UK quite abruptly. Whole life, whole friendship groups gone in one move. And I started again in Asia. I cast the net wide at first, the way you do in any new city, and then it narrowed year on year. Some of it went when I toned down drinking alcohol. The bar crowd was never going to survive that change, and it wasn't meant to. What's left is a small core I genuinely see, and I see often. And by the evidence, that's a decent position. The Harvard researchers are quite explicit that it's not how many people you know. The quality of the relationships is what carries the prediction, not the total count. On paper then, I'm fine. But here's the honest bit, and it's the reason this month exists. I can be at a table with people I love and still feel a little lonely, because I've become different from the people around me, and I know it. I've had the privilege, and it is a privilege, of years of time to think about enough. What it is, when you have it, and what's supposed to come afterwards. That thinking changes you. I'll be sitting at a dinner quietly running scenarios in my head that nobody else at the table is running, about a question nobody else at the table is asking. There's no one to hand that thinking to. And it's a strange kind of alone, surrounded, well-liked, and completely unaccompanied in the thing that occupies you the most. If that sounds familiar, if you've done the maths and it's changed you, and there's no one at your table you can say that to, then you already know why this episode exists. The rest is for you as much as it is for me. So what do you actually do about this while you're still working? That's the real question. Both of these things build slowly, and both punish a late start. If you wait until the exit to begin, you've made the same mistake twice. And this time, there's no compound growth coming to bail you out. Sadly, I don't have a system for you. What I have is what I've noticed in my own life, plus one piece of advice I'll only half believe. I'll give you both, and you can watch me test them in public for the next 10 months. First, what I've noticed. Recently, 2 sets of new people have arrived in my life through 2 doors that I never planned. This show is actually one of them. It's brought me people I'd never otherwise have met, and those conversations have been fantastic. And then the other one is my morning boot camp. There's a crew there that I see every single weekday morning. If you run Hall's numbers on that, daily hours, outside work, doing something together, the study says that's the kind of time that counts, and the hours at the office are exactly the kind that don't. Now, I haven't yet invested past that with most of them. I know it. the hours still belong to the job, and they will until next June. But the doors are open and the time is accumulating. And after years of sorry, work, an open door with real hours passing through it is not nothing. It might be the most honest progress I've actually made, and it was unintentional. Second, the advice. And I just want to start by saying I don't fully know what I believe here yet. This is this month's answer, but it's not necessarily my final answer. If someone 10 years behind me asked for advice, I'd probably say two things, and they pull in different directions. I'd say find people on the same path as you. I have FIRE friends, and we nerd out completely. Markets, numbers, plans, and it's super fun. It keeps the long game feeling like a game. On a path this long, I think that really matters more than it sounds. But notice what it doesn't fix. It doesn't fix anything I described earlier, because a room full of people optimizing the same thing shares the same blind spots. And that brings me to the second thing, which is more important. Make sure your people are not all doing what you do. A room full of lawyers has one view of the world. The friends who've given me the most this year are the ones living completely different lives to me. Art, music, sport. They ask questions no lawyer would think to ask. And when you're trying to design your next life, people who are living proof that there are other ways to spend your life are worth more to you than another opinion on asset allocation. Same path people to keep you going, different path people to show you where you might go. I think you need both. And I think most of us in this world have massively overbought the first and never even priced in the second. So that's my answer this month. I reserve the right to be wrong about it by Christmas. This is a countdown and not a lecture. Here's the question to sit with this week. 2 parts, and to be honest, nobody's checking. Who could you actually call on a genuinely bad day? And for each name that comes to mind, when did you last put proper hours in with proper face time and invested in that relationship? If the list is shorter than you expected, or the hours are stale and older than you'd like, then hopefully you can now see what you need to do next. Next week, we go somewhere I suspect most of you have never looked. I know I didn't. The people around the edges of your life, the ones you'd never quite call friends at all, and what happens to them when you hand in your resignation. I think it's going to be the most important episode of the month. If this episode landed somewhere uncomfortable, the Freedom Score will tell you which of the 5 pillars of enough is actually holding you back. Health, money, identity, relationships, and purpose. It takes 3 minutes, it's completely free, and a little too honest. The link is in the description. One small thing before next week. If a name came into your head just now on your friends list, someone this episode made you think of, please send it to them. A share from you does more for this show than anything I could do from this side of the microphone. And if you've been here a while and the show's earned it, a review wherever you're listening takes about a minute to do, and it really helps the show to grow and let people find the show who haven't listened to it before. Thanks for listening to Life After Enough, a podcast about money, meaning, and the life you design when work becomes optional. If this episode made you rethink your future, share it with someone who's starting to question the script too. You can follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. I'm your host, Nick, and I'll see you next week as we keep building a life that's truly ours.